Hey everyone, Phil Pendlebury here. Hope you're having a super mega large day. Today I'm going to have a look at the new Waves CLA NX plugin, which is meant for mixing with headphones. The CLA version of the NX plugin is a chance to sit in the studio of legendary mix engineer Chris Lord Alge. It comes with a few different speaker setups, which we'll get into in a minute. And if you're familiar with the way the NX system works, then this will be nothing really new to you, except for its kind of new sounds and a new studio to work in. But for those of you that have never seen NX before, I'll also be going through that. So let's get the headphones on and have a go. Don't forget, by the way, if you are listening to this, please do use headphones, because that's what this is all about. All right, let's do it. Okay, so I've got the headphones on and I hope you have too, because this experiment and this walkthrough won't really work very well if you're not listening in headphones. I've also got the little NX device on top of the headphones here, but we'll get into that a little bit later because it's not super important for what we're going to do first. So here's the plugin. We can zoom in on that and you can see the plugin there. What I've done is I've exported a bunch of stems from a mix that I was working on earlier on. They're not sort of the normal stems that you would use. Everything's bounced a little bit more than it would be, but we'll go through that in a minute. First thing I want to do is just have a quick look at the plugin and explain what it's all about. So, okay, why do we need a plugin like this? The idea, of course, which I've explained before in other videos, is normally when you're mixing in headphones, you have the sound from the left channel going directly into your left ear, and the right channel will be going directly into your right ear. And of course, there's a big difference from that than there would be if you were mixing with a pair of normal studio monitors. When you're using monitors, you get reflections from all around the room, and not only that, the left monitor, you'll be hearing some of it in your right ear. So that's why we always have problems with mixing in headphones, because balances and levels just don't seem to work, you know, like they should. People call it crossfeed, and there are plugins that try to sort of emulate that. The idea of the NX system is it emulates the sound of a specific room. In this case, there's two others. There's the Abbey Road and the Nashville, and they both sound great. And then there's the basic NX system, which is just a basic emulation of crossfeed across the headphones, along with a little bit of ambience. Okay, so most of you already know that. In this case, we've got the room of legendary mix engineer Chris Lord Alge. And you probably know, if you're familiar with Chris's work, he uses a pair of NS10s as his main monitors, or actually I'm saying main monitors as his listening monitors. These are kind of recreations of the popular NS10s. I think he calls them the CLA10 or CLA10A. And in this case, they're paired with a sub. Then you've got the mains, which are, I think, JBLs, these up here. And then you've got a boombox, which we can whip round and see. It's actually hidden under there. It's in the little rack there. Anyway, we'll get into that and how it all works in a minute. So hopefully it's clear about why we want to use this kind of plugin. The idea is that you're using it to give you the sound of that room and to give you the crossfeed, and the idea that you're actually sat in that room rather than having left signal pumped into left ear and right signal pumped into right ear like you do with normal headphones. So first of all, where do we put the plugin? Well, this is a source of great discussion, but it's actually really simple. If you're using Cubase, for example, let me pull that over. You would put it in your control room under the headphone section where I've got my Sound ID reference plugin. For the sake of this demonstration, I'm putting it on my Master 2 bus there. But you would never normally do that. This is not intended to be used in the mixdown. unless you're going to use it for some kind of creative or artistic purpose, the whole idea of this is you use it to listen, you use it to mix, but you do not include it in your export. Now, your DAW will have different ways of doing that. Some people will have to put it on their master bus and then remember to mute it afterwards when you're mixing down or rendering. But luckily in Cubase we have the control room which doesn't get included in a mix down. So I've got it in my master bus, which is purely for the sake of this video. And let's have a listen to the track without the plugin enabled, just to give you an idea of what we're listening to. So this is purely, I've got my BX Townhouse here, which we can see the settings of. It's not doing very much.
I look back now, cross half my life.
So as you can tell, that track's pretty much mixed. It's the stems are all there and it's pretty much mixed, but I thought I would do some little experiments with it as we go on. But first, let's just explain what the plugin does and have a look at it. So get your headphones on and off we go. So here it is. And let's get rid of my cameras. You don't want to see my ugly mug. Okay, so we can zoom in a little bit. Let's pull it up to 150%. There we go. So when I enable the plugin, what we're going to do is basically we will hear the sound of that room. I've got the ambience set down to almost nothing. Actually, the lowest it will go is 60%. But you can pump that up to 160. So for me, that's kind of 0 and that's 100. I've also got the level down by 1 dB because I always feel that the level of these things, it might be just perceived, I haven't measured it, but I also feel that they're a little bit loud. So let's have a listen, let's enable the plugin. So that's the CLA10s with the sub, and in fact, as I mentioned earlier, yeah, they're not actually NS10s, they're modded NS10s that were recreations made, I think, by him or for him. You can probably find all that info on the internet. But they're paired with a sub. You can't disable the sub. They sound quite nice to me.
And think of all the good advice. I know that how.
We can rotate our point of view, which is another thing that the NX device itself does automatically when you move your head. As I said, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's just keep it centered for now.
Here and there and there, our profiles made across to bear. Yes, we will lead and sometimes fall, and yet we'll notice not at all. You see, we're there, we never crawl. We're ones that stand like poppy tall.
So you can hear when I enable it, you can hear that, first of all the things that are at the far left and far right of the track seem to be pulled in a little bit. But what that's doing is it's giving you the effect of listening through speakers. Actually, if I play onto the chorus where everything really opens up, you'll really hear the difference. So let's disable.
Creative flair and a drive to change the way that life's been arranged. So now we have got your attention. We're taking
Now we're enabled.
to this destination. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception. World's in trouble, you've heard it.
Okay, so now let's switch over to the mains, which are the big JBLs here. I believe the JBLs, like I said, I'm not 100% on this one. You'll find out that info, I think, from the Waves website.
We're needed now, and there's no doubt. Stop greenhouse gas, don't need the fumes. It will be hot, please don't assume. Together now, the path is clear, so we can all breathe fresh, clean air.
First thing I noticed there is there's a lot more bottom end coming out, and just the general ambience is really making it sound to me like I'm actually sat in a room, even though I have got my headphones on. Let's continue.
Carbon out, make nature pride. We'll save the world from the night. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception now.
Okay, so that's the mains. Very nice sound. Now you might be wondering, okay, isn't that going to flatter me a little bit? And to me, or isn't it going to influence me a little bit? And to me, that is kind of the whole point. The whole point really is to give you the sound as if you're in a room, right? And there might be things that you're missing. And I do know for a fact, for instance, on this particular track, that there's a little bit of a problem with the bottom end. It was mixed maybe a year ago, and as you guys know, your skills are always improving, and since then I've kind of improved the way I look at the bottom end, and you can hear that as soon as I switch this into the mains mode. You can hear, or at least I can hear, what I did wrong. When it's switched off, everything just sounds like it would do normally in headphones, and it's a little bit deceiving. Okay, so apart from the mains and the CLA10s, we've also got the Boombox. Now this is a clever little thing, because the Boombox is actually situated behind the desk. In fact, you can scan around, look, and I can show you where it is. There's the mixer, and there's the Boombox. So it's off center completely. And what you can do is you can, if we're at the mains, you can click the bottom button here, and it'll spin you round so that the boombox is pretty much a central item. Or you can click just the top button, the boombox becomes active, but you stay facing towards the desk. So the boombox is actually behind you, which is how Chris uses it. And it really does actually give you a good insight into what's going on with the mix. So let's just have a little play with that. I'll start with mains, and then I'll move to the boombox.
Rethinking the world inside and out. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception now.
Okay, so that gives you a rough idea of the different kind of sounds that are available. At the moment, as I said, I have the ambience down quite low. If you turn that up, basically it gives you more of the ambience from the room. And I don't want too much of that. I just want a little bit of that crossfeed and a little bit of that bringing those hard left and right signals in a bit, just so that it doesn't influence you too much like it does when you're wearing headphones. I hope that makes sense. So now what I'm going to do is put the little NX device into the equation and show you how that works. Okay, so the little NX device is Bluetooth. You can see I've got it on the top of my headphones here. I've actually got it Velcroed on. It comes with a different fitting, but I like to just have it Velcroed on. So what I'm going to do, hopefully if I can feel this button, and I'll press it, and it should be on now. So we'll flick back round, and if we go over to the device itself, to the plugin, we click the settings button, and that will bring up the Waves head tracker device list. So what we do now is just wait for it to connect. Okay, and there we are, the DT880, as I'm using that particular device on my DT880 headphones. Sometimes you might have a bit of trouble connecting. I find that I just have to whip back over into Windows Bluetooth and actually just search for the device and connect it, and then it comes up on here. So you can see it's already receiving data from me moving my head. You can see me in the camera probably. So the important thing here is not to close this. So what we do is we just minimize and we go back to the plugin, which you should still have in view. Let's get rid of the camera for a second. And we select the headphones. So now you can see the little head here is moving around and it's totally in the wrong place. So what we need to do is click the calibrate button, and now I'm facing forward and that head is also facing forward, and you'll see if I turn my head towards that way, the head will turn, and if I turn that way, the head will turn. Even if I put my head back and forth, it moves with your head. We can center the actual view here by pressing the 0 degrees button. And if you feel that you've kind of moved off track a little bit, then we can calibrate again. So once we're fully calibrated, as it were, and we're happy that we're in the central position, I'm nodding my head, moving my head around, what we can do is play the track, and you'll see that if I turn my head towards one speaker, that the whole sound shifts in that direction. And honestly, it really does sound like you are sat in that room. It really adds to the kind of illusion. Now, some people might say, well, what's the point in that? And for me, I just find that sometimes it gives you a good insight as to the sort of sonic qualities of what's going on around. And it comes into its own when you start to use it in a surround situation, which unfortunately the CLA version doesn't have a surround version, but the Abbey Road Studio one does, and the basic NS one does as well. So I guess that's for another video. So let's just have a play. I'll move my head around a bit so that you can get the idea of how that works. So calibrated to center, let's play the track.
I look back now, across half my life, and think of all the good advice. I know that how, with perfect choice, we need to drown out all the noise. From teachers here and parents there, our profiles made, our cross to bear. Yes, we will lead and sometimes fall, and yet we'll know there's not at all.
Now, obviously that's a little bit extreme, but I do find it useful. Quite often when I'm mixing with this kind of thing, I will disable the head tracking altogether and just occasionally flip round and see, oh, okay, you know, we've got a little bit of a bias on one side, it might be, you know. And the other thing is that you have to remember, I suppose, is a lot of people don't listen to music sat right in the center of the speakers. So sometimes it's handy to just have that idea of what's going on around you. So that's the basics. What I thought I would do now is actually try and play around with the mix a little bit. And one thing, of course, we haven't done is listen to any of the individual instruments. through the device. So I thought I'd kind of, what I'd do, I won't reset everything to 0, but what I'll do is I'll try and get some kind of mix that I'm happy with. And let's just see how it works and how it sounds. So I'm going to put this back to, actually, no, I'll tell you what, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it at that magnification. But what I will do is show, we'll go to a view of the entire DAW, so you can see what's going on. And once I've got this set, we'll remove the camera. So don't forget, I'm going to leave this enabled now. You should be listening with headphones on, and it shouldn't really be in the master section of your mix. It should be after that. So you're not going to use this in the render. So let's have a play around and see how we get on. So we've got drums. So we'll disable the head tracking for now. So it's going to be a central signal like you would normally be listening to. Okay, so let's try a little drums and bass. I do feel that that bass EQ is a bit rough, so I'm going to try and EQ that a little bit. Normally I'd have my drums and bass both up a group and then some compression usually applied to both just to kind of glue them together. All right. So let's just quickly do that. Why not? So I've just made a quick little group for those, so they should both be coming up this channel now. what I need to do really here is find a place in the track where it's a little bit more consistent. So let's run from here. Wow, that ride cymbal sounds very harsh. So let's get back to CLA and just see if that's got anything to do with that, or if it is in fact as harsh as it sounds. Yeah. All right, so let's have a listen to some vocals and guitar, and then we'll come back and try and juggle everything together. Now, as I said earlier on, what I've done here is all the vocals are bounced to one stem, all the guitars are all bounced to one stem. So it's not really about demoing a mix here. It was just more about getting the whole idea across. But having said that, there is a couple of things we can still do. So what I'm going to do is let's put a little track spacer or something similar. We could actually try the Baby Audio. It's in here somewhere, Smooth Operator. That's a new kid on the block. I did a little video on this the other day. So let's give that a go. Get rid of Arouser. Don't forget, this is all just an experiment. So what I'm going to do here is I've got the guitar channel and I've got Baby Audio over the guitars. Let's find a part where we've got vocal and guitar. Around about, yeah, those double choruses at the end.
So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation.
So what I'm going to do here is put the sidechain on with a little button over in the corner, and then we're going to add the vocals as a sidechain source, and we'll have both of the vocals. So we've got the chorus and maybe the BVs as well, why not? So we'll just add them all. You can juggle your mix here a bit. So what's going to happen now is when we've got vocals in, we're going to be able to cut out some of the guitar frequencies.
So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception now.
Video I did on this earlier, and there's a few alternatives. As you know, there's Soothe, there's Gullfoss, and there is Track Spacer, which Track Spacer is the one that we've been using mostly, to be honest. But since the baby audio is new, we're giving it a chance. So that's nice. What that's done is just ducked the guitars down a little bit, not too obvious. Hopefully it's obvious enough for the video. And we can now kind of hear the vocals poking through a little bit more when everything is up and running. Let's try that in the mix. Here we go. Yeah, okay, that's sounding pretty convincing. I think what we'll do, we just run through the whole track and we'll just quickly have a mess around. We'll zoom back in and we'll quickly have a little fiddle about. I'll get rid of the cameras again because I don't want that to distract you, the back of my ugly head. And let's just have a little fiddle.
I look back now, across half my life, and think of all the good advice. I know that how, with perfect choice, we need to drown out all the noise. From teachers here and parents there, our profiles made, our cross to bear. Yes, we will lead and sometimes fall, and yet we'll notice.
Yeah, so one of the things here is I've got all the keyboards bounced into one stem, which I explained earlier. And unfortunately, there's a keyboard solo included in that, which to me is just a little bit too high, or at least it sounds it with the CLA plugin. So I'm just going to kind of push the top end, or the top end of the level down a little bit on that keyboard solo, and hopefully it won't suck the rhythm part of the keyboards up too much. And then we'll give it another couple of minutes. Not going to carry on much longer like this. Obviously it's a bit kind of long-winded. And then what we'll do is we'll just bypass the whole thing, and you can have a listen on the speakers, and we'll see whether we feel that the mix is acceptable.
You've heard us shout, we're needed now, and there's no doubt. Stop dreaming.
And there you hear some of the strange things that go on behind the track. That would never stand up on its own. But when it's in the track, I found that it really filled out the whole guitar scenario. Let's have a listen. Here we go.
The world, yes, I do now. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception. So now we have. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception now. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception now. I look back now, cross half my life, and think of all the good advice.
All right, so as I say, I know there's rough edges there on that mix, but the balance, that's really what we're looking at. The vocals sound very harsh. Some of the other things also sound a little harsh and not totally finished. But what I'm trying to do here is get a balance using that plugin. So I'll just finish off by chucking on a couple of little plugins over the master 2-bus. Again, which you wouldn't normally do. That would be something left for the mastering stage. But as we're in an experimental mode, why not?
To drown out all the noise from teachers here and parents there. Our profiles made across to bear. Yes, we will lead and sometimes fall, and yet we'll notice not at all. You see, we're there, we never crawl. We're ones that stand like poppy tall. Creative flair and
So what I'm doing here is just building up a little bit of a master chain. It's nothing glamorous. And I'm putting all these effects before, let's bring that up actually onto the screen here. All these effects are going before the CLA NX. So I've got my Townhouse bus, I've got a little bit of EQ, I've got the True Peak limiter, which would be the last thing in the chain if you were mastering, I suppose. Although there are, like I said, this is just an experiment. There are lots more things that you would do in a real mastering situation. Okay, well, I think we'll leave it at that. Hopefully my little bits of experimentation there got the idea across. What I'm going to do now is disable the plugin, and obviously I can't do this while we're recording, but we have a listen on the speakers and see how that mix stands up as if it was a normal mix. Now I know the EQs and I know that things are harsh and there's a lot of things that just aren't quite how they should be. That's really because of the way that the stems were done in the first place, because I just did that as a little bit of an experiment. However, should give us an idea of whether we've got things balanced. So we'll run a little bit of the track with the plugin on and just flick through the settings again.
Created there and tried to change the way that life
what I'm going to do now is I'll play out with the track without the plugin on, but with all the different adjustments that I've made and all the little bits of kind of pseudo mastering on. And I guess you can make up your own mind. Have a listen on your speakers, or even if you're used to your headphones, have a listen on your headphones and see what you think. Incidentally, just before I do go, I forgot to mention the song. It's from an album called Midlife Crisis, and all the music and melodies and everything were written and recorded by me, and the lyrics were written by a good friend of mine called Carl Fielder. He does a lot of lyric writing. In fact, Carl's story is huge, and I'll save that for another time. But basically what he does is he writes these wonderful lyrics and gives them to me, and I will write a song around the whole thing for him. And we did that with an album last year, which this track was kind of my favourite, really, one of my favourites anyway, as regards simple and straight ahead pieces of rock music go. And there's another album on its way. So all credit to Carl Fielder for the lyrics, and everything else was myself, all done here with Cubase. So let's play out with the plugin disabled. There we go. So just to point out, I'm not going to make any adjustments now, even though I feel like I might feel like I should. So this is just to give you an idea of the comparison, so that you can kind of get yourselves comfortable, listen without the headphones on, or just listen with headphones compared to how it was previously.
I look back now, across half my life, and think of all the good advice. I know that how, with perfect choice, we need to drown out all the noise. From teachers here and parents there, our profiles made across to bear. Yes, we will lead and sometimes fall, and yet we'll notice not at all. You see, we're there, we never crawl. We're ones that stand like heartbeat tall. Creative flair and a drive to change the way that life's been arranged. So now we have got your attention. We're taking exception to the state of the nation. No passive aggression, no hostile rejection, no more novel inventions. We're taking exception. World's in trouble.
Okay, so I think that about does it for now. I hope this was useful, and if you did find it useful, you know the routine. Give us a quick thumbs up, a like and a subscribe and all that. It's always really helpful. See you again next time. Thanks ever so much.